Okay, so today we're doing something pretty different from my usual content. This is going to be one of the weirdest videos for me to script, let alone record and edit, but I feel like I have to do something, like anything, at this point. I have no idea how this video is going to go, and I'm sure from the title you can put together a little bit of what I want to talk about today. I know I don't have a lot of followers on this page or anything. This channel is entirely a hobby of mine to be creative and talk about the stuff I care about. On the off chance you are one of those few followers, don't worry. I'll be back to a more usual type of content soon. I just really have some things that I need to say and things I really need to talk about. If you somehow haven't heard yet, a few weeks ago, as of the upload date of this video, Charlie Kirk was brutally and horrifically assassinated in front of an audience of his fans, supporters, and even many people who disagreed with him, but most notably, his own wife and very young children. If, again, you somehow don't know Charlie, he was an American political commentator, activist, and community organizer. Except to call him merely a political commentator does not remotely cover how important a man he was to this nation. I mean, Charlie is famous across the world for the clips online of him at campuses across this great nation, where he would invite anyone and everyone to come and talk to him and discuss literally anything. He championed the free exchange of ideas. He was just a lovely person who wanted to talk to everyone. That was his main shtick. He wasn't a provocateur. He wasn't a radical agitator. He was merely a man who held beliefs and was willing to discuss them with anyone who wanted to. Charlie believed wholeheartedly that if we could sit down with each other and discuss the things that make us different, we could actually make a positive difference in this world. Unity was always preferable to chaos and disorder. Now, that doesn't mean we have to compromise our beliefs for the sake of peace, but learning how to live with each other is the bedrock of any functional society. Charlie's legacy really cannot be overstated. Turning Point USA, Charlie's organizations, Get Out the Vote efforts were an integral part of the re-election of President Donald Trump. And I mean this with total and complete seriousness. I think Charlie's assassination is the most notable political assassination since MLK and Robert Kennedy Sr. back in 1968. I don't like waving credentials around, but I do have a degree in history, and I did some research, and I dug through the historical records for this video. While there have been many assassinations in America in the 57 years since RFK and MLK, I don't think any are nearly as high profile or have had the same effects on the world that Charlie's will. I personally wasn't even really a fan of Charlie's. I mean, I knew him, I had seen clips of him online, and he had worked with a bunch of other people that I do follow. I just wasn't really a fan of his content specifically, totally on like an entertainment level. I respected him, he was doing great work, I just didn't really actively watch his stuff. And despite not knowing him personally and not even being an active fan of his, I still shed tears for Charlie. It is unspeakably horrible and absolutely unfathomably terrible what has happened to him. Charlie was murdered for the great crime of wanting to talk to people. I don't want to focus too much on his killer here. There's plenty of information online that you can find if you want to dig into it. Most of you probably already have. I don't even really want to say his name, though. All available evidence about him points to one real conclusion for the motive of the barbarian who did this. He was an insane leftist who killed Charlie because that was the only way his twisted mind could come up with to silence Charlie. I shouldn't have to tell you how terrible that is. I shouldn't have to, but apparently some in America today never learned that lesson. We are not a nation that solves political disputes this way. This is a nation that was founded on the principle that all mankind is created equal and that we are endowed by our Creator with unalienable rights. The ability to discuss our differences of opinion is at the core of this country. It was Thomas Jefferson who once said that I never considered a difference of opinion in politics, in religion, in philosophy as cause for withdrawing from a friend. Now, many people are actually getting fired because they've gone online and they've celebrated the death of Charlie. I say good riddance to those people. Now, how do I square that circle? How can I say I'm for people being fired when I also say that free speech is the foundation of this nation? Easy. Freedom of speech is also tied to our freedom of association. We are under no obligation to associate with people who celebrate killing people who disagree with them. Charlie was a champion for what he believed in, and his death has made me reanalyze my own life, as death usually does for people. It occurred to me that I'm not always open about my own beliefs. I don't think I've shied away from them, but I've very rarely come out and said what I believe in plain language. This is partially because it usually isn't very important to this channel. Here I like to talk about video games and superheroes because I love those things. I like talking about them. This channel gives me an outlet to be creative and discuss things that many in my day-to-day life just aren't interested in. However, if better men than me are going to be shot dead for speaking up, what right do I have to do anything less? I know I'm not a major channel. I know I don't have a huge following. I don't have any delusions of grandeur, and I'm not going to act like I'm doing something big and incredible by making this video. I'm not Charlie Kirk, and I can't be him, but I can at least speak my mind like him. So, here's what I believe. I am a conservative. I am a Christian. More specifically, I'm a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. I believe that Jesus Christ lived and died for our sins. I believe that we are all sons and daughters of the Most High. I believe God's power still exists on this earth, and that He loves us and wants what is best for us, even though we scarcely deserve that. In terms of political issues, I believe that abortion is an egregious and vile act that we must seek to eradicate. I believe that transgenderism is a dangerous ideology that must be removed from public life. I believe that to be a communist means you abandon your humanity in favor of your own greed. Capitalism has lifted more people out of poverty than any other system in humanity. The Constitution of the United States and the Bill of Rights, when combined, are one of the single greatest pieces of writing in human history, second only to Scripture. Gun rights are human rights, and Israel is the only country in the Middle East that is worth absolutely anything. And I could really keep going. There's 1,000 issues I could just state my opinion on. Many, when discussing Charlie's death, are including a sort of caveat where they say, I don't always agree with Charlie, but he shouldn't have been shot. Which is a statement I agree with, but I want to go further and say I actively agree with just about everything Charlie ever said. Maybe on some specific issue I could find a point of differentiation. Maybe, I think Charlie might have been a touch more isolationist than I am, just to give you an example. But on the whole, I would have a really hard time finding something that I could really argue with Charlie about. Because Charlie didn't say or believe anything that was truly egregiously radical. One of the hardest things for me, personally, about this whole thing has been the fact that the shooter is from a similar background to myself. He was born into the same church that I actively believe in right now. Now, I don't know much about his parents, but they seem, from what I can tell, to be decent, Christ-loving people. And it has been hard for me to wrap my head around how a true monster like that could come from such good stock, and I feel for the pain the shooter caused not only to the Kirk family, but also to his own. I pray that his family might know some level of divine comfort in what must be a really tragic time for them. In a way, though, this horror makes sense to come from someone who abandoned the faith that I so hold dear. Judas was an apostle and still betrayed Jesus Christ. Layman saw literal angels and was hit with the actual power of God and still managed to get himself cursed for his myriad evils. The greatest and most abominable evil is to know truth and to reject it anyway. In order to descend into such a state where you would do something like this to Charlie, you'd have to be immersed in the same sort of evil that created the Scripture's greatest villains. All that said, members of the Church of Jesus Christ believe that our progression does not have to stop at the end of our time on this mortal coil. I will not be the one who judges the shooter, ultimately, and for the sake of his family, I pray he takes the opportunities that are available to him in the life to come. Because Utah's prosecutor's office has already announced its intention to go for the death penalty, and the evidence is pretty overwhelming. Now that I've talked about very serious things for a long time, I want to talk a bit more about this channel and what I want from it. Charlie talked about serious stuff all the time, but he always did so with a smile on his face, so I want to share a bit about the things that I love and why I love them. My whole life, I've struggled with a dichotomy between the things I love and my political beliefs. Believe it or not, it's not always been considered cool for me to talk about Austrian school economics and the philosophical and ethical superiority of capitalism in the same place where I talk about niche details of Pokemon games. And that's fine, to a degree. I don't need both these things to exist in the same space all the time. It's just that my nerd culture love and my conservative values have been compartmentalized so much in my life that I've often felt that I can't be open and authentic with the nerds or the conservatives, which is a real shame. I love video games, superheroes, and fantasy novels, and I love America and the values this nation stands for. And I love both these things at near equal levels. I mean, I might have to give a slight edge to America here, but now we're kind of comparing apples to oranges, and it's getting a real bit messy. Now, as I kind of mentioned at the top, I'm not intending to suddenly start shifting into political content. I intend to keep making the same type of thing that I've always done. Unless there's some place where my two loves and interests overlap that I really feel I can make an interesting video about, I might make that video, but odds are most of my videos will remain about video games and fantasy novels. Even if I had the means to pump out videos quickly enough to stay on top of political issues, I don't think I have the mental energy to do so. What I do have, though, is the ability to keep doing what I'm doing and just be open about my beliefs the whole time. I don't intend to force my beliefs into videos where they don't belong. You know, if I'm making a video about Mario, I'm not going to go into a diatribe about who to vote for or why. But if you ever watch a video of mine, just know it was made by a Christian conservative. I want this channel to be a place where if you enjoy the things that I enjoy, you can have a fun time here. Maybe you can learn something new about a game or story you love. Maybe I can show you some interesting angle you hadn't considered previously. Regardless of your background or beliefs, I want people to be able to relax with my content. This is a place for peace and fun. I think Charlie would want more place in the world where people can simply enjoy the lighter things in life, without being mired in political hate and division. With all that said, why don't I also point out some of the ways my interest in nerd culture corresponds with my interest in conservative values? Take superheroes, for example. I've seen left-wing activists for years tell me that superheroes are inherently left-wing because they challenge societal rules, and that doesn't remotely make sense. Honestly, I feel I can make a pretty good argument for the concept of a superhero being an inherently conservative idea. After all, most heroes are fighting to preserve something. But that might be getting too off in the weeds. I can save that for a video way down the line someday, and just go with the far simpler argument that a hero is neither left nor right wing. The left don't have a monopoly on the concept of fighting to change society for the better, and all heroes are looking at some aspect of society they want to remain the same, or dare I say, conserve. Batman wants to preserve justice, for example. That's why he teams up with the likes of Commissioner Jim Gordon or Harvey Dent pre-Bad Acid Trip. Batman sees good in his society, some shred of law and order and justice, and works to preserve that. No person, regardless of political persuasion, is actually rooting for society to remain precisely as it is now forever. Everyone has problems with how things work. We just have different priorities on what needs to be changed and how it needs to be changed, and our superheroes can reflect that. How about fantasy novels? While I'm not nearly as much of a Tolkien nerd as most might assume I am, I do love these novels and movies, and I also love that Grandpa Tolkien was so Christian it boggles the mind of the modern man. Christian themes are everywhere in these novels. The ring as a metaphor for sin and temptation, Frodo being an innocent being who must bear the burden of that great sin, sacrificing himself. That is a near perfect metaphor for Christ's atoning sacrifice. Tolkien also worked hand in hand with C.S. Lewis, who was somehow able to fit even more Christianity into his fantasy books. I think you'd have an extremely hard time finding any prominent fantasy novel in the past 100 years that weren't, at least a little bit, inspired by these two great men and their work. They are the bedrock of all fantasy writing, which means that by extension, Christianity is the bedrock of all fantasy writing. Finally, how about video games? I don't have a great philosophical or political angle to my love of video games, and I think that's what makes them so great. Many have argued over the years if video games should be counted as an art form, and while I agree with that statement, I kind of see an argument for why they might not be. Video games, unlike the traditional arts, are considered great if they have some high-minded idea attached to them that they're looking to explore. Don't get me wrong, though, video games absolutely can broaden the mind and make you consider great philosophical questions as well as a great symphony or a classical piece of literature. It's just that isn't inherently what makes a game great. The only question a game needs to ask is this fun? And if the answer is yes, you've got a winner. And that's a great thing. The world needs things for people to do that are just fun. Life is difficult. It will hit you, and it will beat you, and it will exhaust you. We all have responsibilities that we must take care of, and it is a good thing to work hard through everything life throws at you. But while we're at it, can we take a load off every once in a while? Sometimes you need to hone your mind by reading the classics or appreciating the Dutch masters, and some other times you just need to make a silly Italian man jump on some turtles. You can do both, and it's not only fine, I think it should be encouraged. My love of nerd culture has never been at odds with my conservative values. I can love my video games and believe what I believe, and I've decided that I can't go around pretending otherwise. Again, I'm not pretending making this video is some noble, brave act. Few will likely even watch this. I just have a need to do something to help. Better men than me are dying because of what they believe. The absolute bare minimum I can do in this life is to make it clear that I hold those beliefs. If somehow the barbarians who feel the need to kill people for engaging in open and honest dialogue see this video, come for me first before you go after the others. I have no children to leave fatherless and no wife to leave widowed. If you're going to start killing people who don't agree with you, then you'll have to kill me too. Because I'm not going to be going anywhere. I want to do what I can to pick up that bloody microphone from where it fell from Charlie's hand. It's now a torch that I won't let go out, if I can. I'm currently looking into ways that I can help more in my personal life. Turning Point has chapters in high schools and colleges across the nation, so maybe I can volunteer for them, and maybe I can help out my local Republican Party. Maybe they could use me. I don't actually know what to do right now. I just need to be doing something and saying what I believe openly in public for the whole world to see. It felt like a decent start. If you stuck around this long, thanks for humoring me while I got this stuff off my chest. And if you believe free speech and peaceful debate aren't only a great thing but absolutely necessary for society to exist, consider looking into ways you can help as well. It's all on us to keep the flame alive. So, let's do it for Charlie.